There are some Shin Megami Tensei games which are widely known even among people who don't play Shin Megami Tensei games. But this one's a little bit obscure, and honestly, if I hadn't known about the Shin Megami Tensei franchise earlier, and if I weren't a big fan, I wouldn't know anything about it. This game is DemiKids' Dark version for the Gameboy Advance. I never saw this game marketed for release over in the United States, even though I know it came out here. If I hadn't gone onto the Shin Megami Tensei wiki in order to find information about other games, I wouldn't even know this game existed, and frankly I don't think very many Shin Megami Tensei fans know it exists either. It's a little bit of a strange game in terms of Shin Megami Tensei goes. First of all, even though it evolves the apocalypse as all Shin Megami Tensei games seem to, it also kind of involves a mixture between the human and demon worlds, which isn't something that is seen very often. I mean, in the Persona games, at least the more recent ones, there's a divide between the mortal world and the world that the shadows inhabit, and shadows kind of make up the main enemies for the game. But the demons in Shin Megami Tensei, in the Persona games at least, are used as summons and not as enemies. But in this game, it's kind of a strange mixture of both. Imagine if Shin Megami Tensei was a Pokemon game, and that's basically what this is. As per usual with this series, there's a bunch of demons, the apocalypse is going to happen, Lucifer shows up at least once. This game appears to have multiple paths that you can take, but whether or not it has multiple endings based on chaos or law like past games do, is not something that I know for sure yet. After all, I'm only just beginning this game, as these are my first impressions. So far it kinda seems like Shin Megami Tensei Pokemon. Of course, as usual, there are demons that you have to fight, and you can summon demons and you can recruit them. Those are staples of the series after all, and this just wouldn't be a Shin Megami Tensei game if demons weren't involved. Even though the recruiting system is basically the same as other Shin Megami Tensei games, somehow it feels more like a Pokemon game this time. Probably because the main character doesn't actually fight, but instead sends out monsters to do it for him. The plot so far appears to be that there are rifts in time appearing, both in the human world and in the demon world, which is called Dem, and the rifts are threatening the stability of the future. If they keep existing, then all of the future will be destroyed, apparently. So, of course, the kids, when they find one, decide to touch it, because that's a good idea. I'm not sure if this game was marketed as a kids game or not, but it's kind of a strange kids game, at least for America. Shin Megami Tensei is not known to be a kid-friendly game, at least as far as the games I've played, most of which are rated M. And frankly, this game kind of feels like if you took a Saturday morning anime, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, and you mixed it together with Shin Megami Tensei, and it kind of makes a strange atmosphere. The game starts out in a classroom, which is kind of cliche, but whatever. The characters have really crazy anime hair, and the style just isn't the same as other Shin Megami Tensei games. However, even though the style is a little bit weird, it is kind of charming. The sprite art could be better, but honestly, it seems pretty interesting for a Shin Megami Tensei game. It's kind of cute. The enemies and demons are more stylized than usual. They have brighter color palettes, and the characters are definitely much different than the design of typical Shin Megami Tensei games. I don't think it's a very far stretch to say they got a different designer to do this. Graphically, I was kind of surprised to hear that this was a Game Boy Advance game, but that's just because I'm used to playing Game Boy Advance games that have more bright color palettes and a little bit better sprite art. Then again, the Shin Megami Tensei series is known for its more gritty atmosphere than most games, so the sprite art in this game could be attempting to depict that. The dialogue is a little bit weirdly translated. For example, when you're in battle, when you try something, it says that your character tried this. But it says the same exact thing when the enemy does it, as if the enemy was being told to try it out, which is a little bit weird considering that no one is giving them any directions. The demons are translated strangely as well, with names that don't match the rest of the Shin Megami Tensei series. For example, Jack Frost is just called an Icy, the Nekomata is just called a Two-Tail, and a bunch of other demons that I don't really recognize from the series are called other things. They might be demons from the series, but honestly, I can't recognize if they are or not. Obviously, I recognize the usual faces like Lucifer, but that's because he's named, and also because he's a giant demon dude. And obviously, I can recognize Jack Frost and Pixie, as those are early demons in most games. Whether or not there'll be more familiar demons as the game goes on is something I haven't seen yet, as I've only played the first couple of minutes. But I'm sure there'll be at least a few familiar faces, as Lucifer already has made an appearance, and there's been quite a few names that I've recognized already. That and it's Shin Megami Tensei, so why wouldn't there be all the fun demons that we all know and love in this game, even if they're called something unusual, or if they don't appear the same. But with that aside, the atmosphere is actually pretty neat in this game. So far, I haven't really seen much of what this game has to offer in terms of world, but so far it's established its own atmosphere that is definitely different than any other game I've played. The beginning was a little bit of cliché anime feeling, but once you get into the demon world, the world suddenly becomes beautiful. You've been transported to this other world, and there's just a bunch of demons running around enjoying their life. They seem strangely unsurprised to see a human in their world, though whether or not that's explained later on is something that I don't know yet. Oh, and speaking of demons and humans, the kids in this game, at least the ones that can summon demons, are called DemiKids, and supposedly they have the powers of both demons and humans. I'm not sure exactly how similar this concept is to the concept of, like, for say, the Demi-Fiend from Shin Megami Tensei 3, but I don't think it's quite the same. First of all, these kids seem to be normal kids just with demon powers, as opposed to a demon with a human heart. Though honestly, I don't really know what's going on yet, so I can't say for sure what the comparison is. The way the battle system works is a little bit strange. It's a turn-based RPG as most Shin Megami Tensei games are, but the setup is a little bit weird. First of all, as I mentioned, the main character doesn't actually battle. He has his demons fight for him, which kind of makes it feel like Pokemon, as I've said. The main character summons a guide demon in the beginning, who appears to be like the main character in terms of the party. Whether or not the game ends when he dies though, I'm not quite sure, as I haven't had him die alone yet, as so far the only loss that I've suffered has involved my entire party. Magic and physical skills appear to be mostly the same. As per usual, magic skills use up MP, which is a standard in most video games, and physical skills take up HP, which has been a standard in Shin Megami Tensei for quite a while. Whether or not that'll stick around, especially since it wasn't present in Shin Megami Tensei 4, is something I don't know, obviously since I haven't played any other Shin Megami Tensei games past that. But in this game, it's definitely here. And it kind of took me by surprise at first because I didn't really pay attention to the fact that it was skills as opposed to magic the first time, and I almost died because I used a skill that used up a lot of HP. I should have known better. I'm not a stranger to this series, so of course physical skills would use up HP. But I wasn't really thinking about it because it didn't really feel much like a Shin Megami Tensei game at first. Though one thing is for sure, this game seems grueling already, and I'm only in the beginning. The first area isn't too hard. You can fight a bunch of pixies and Jack Frosts and, Shep, which is just a bunch of sheep with numbers on it. Whatever. You can fight a bunch of these enemies, and they're pretty weak, honestly. The pixies can heal themselves, and I think the Shep might be able to, but I didn't really look. And they all have a couple of elemental skills, but nothing that'll really hurt you hard at first. That continues for the entire school, which is the beginning of the game. But as soon as you get to Dem, it spikes up in difficulty a little bit. I would definitely recommend buying way more healing objects in the beginning area than I did, as I only bought maybe 3 of each. Your party also doesn't really have enough MP to keep itself healed for a while, so unless you want to go grind and level up a lot before going on in the story, you're gonna need to have a lot of healing objects with you. Of course, the spike in difficulty might not actually be difficult, it might just be me sucking at this game because it doesn't feel like a Shin Megami Tensei game at first. After all, the series isn't known for being forgiving, and even games like Persona 3 and 4, which I consider to be some of the easier games in this series, can be pretty unforgiving at times. So I'm not really quite sure why I was expecting this game to be easy, because it is a Shin Megami Tensei after all. Well, I'll just have to play more and see how hard this game gets. Who knows, maybe it'll end up being easy in the end, and maybe it'll end up being difficult. I'm not really sure what to expect from this game, as it is a Shin Megami Tensei game, but then again, it doesn't really seem much like a Shin Megami Tensei game. So whether or not it'll live up to its series name, or if it'll just seem like a strange game that has the name tacked on, was yet to be seen. So far, though, it is interesting, and I'm looking forward to playing the rest of it. The art style is growing on me as the enemies are pretty cute. The battle system isn't too different from most Shin Megami Tensei games, so I think I'll survive. And the difficulty I can just face with some grinding. After all, this is an RPG, and most RPGs do involve at least a little bit of grinding. Anyways, those were my first impressions of Shin Megami Tensei DemiKids Dark version. I'll definitely be making a video as soon as I beat the game, expressing how I feel about it. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos about video games and design. Also, feel free to check out my Tumblr for this channel, where I'll post videos and updates. I'll post a link in the description if you want to see. Anyway, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed.